welcome to another episode of Career Conversations. In today's episode, we've got Nadia Attard. She's the Chief Commercial Officer at Elantil. Hello, Nadia. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you, so really nice to be here. Thank you for the invite.
Can you start by telling us a little bit about your role and the company that you work for?
Sure. Currently, I work with Elantil. It's a new kid on the block when it comes to platforms. And yesterday, actually, one of the customer gave us a really nice tagline. It's so good that people doesn't believe it exists. So I really like this approach. So basically, I've been around for over 20 years, and I started my career when gaming was when internet actually was just starting. So people, for example, to deposit and to gamble online, they used to come to the betting shops, give money to the cashier, and then they would deposit it online. And anyway, to cut my story short, I ended up in Malta. Spent few good 5 years with Betfair and never wanted to go back in the different industry. I love gaming industry. It really gives me a lot of energy, and I like working both for B2Bs and B2Cs. At the moment, I'm on the B2B side, and I like working with clients who have not clients, but companies which do something unique. So, for example, when I was at Betfair, they had betting exchange, and it was a very, very new, innovative concept, which nobody had, where basically people bet against each other. It brings a lot of positivity and everything. Then I worked with NetEnt, which was also like really cool slots, very innovative back then, concept and everything. And throughout my career, like I was always very fortunate to start with companies who were like relatively small, and then they suddenly grew and became tier one players in the iGaming space. So regarding the Elantil, it's a platform, but it's not just a platform. It has a lot of things all together. So it's a very innovative approach to everything. Like, platforms which exist so far in the market, they are good. But a lot of them which are very good, they were built years ago, sometimes as long as 20 years ago, where there was no such things like regulations, so many regulations. There was no so many requirements from the players. There is no so many requirements from casino managers for marketing, for things and so on. So it reaches a point where a simple task, like for example, adding a new currency or working with crypto or something really small, it becomes like a 6 months project, development project where a lot of resources are involved and simply people don't want to do it. So Elantil approached it from a very different angle in terms of they actually build platform from scratch, starting not from what the platform should have, but what challenges and problems operators are having in the market right now. So it was a completely different U-turn. And when I saw it, I was like really blown away. It's something different. It's something unique on the market. It's so unique that when you tell people about it, they say, no, it doesn't exist. They cannot believe you. They think that you're lying. And then when you go deep under the hood, you have a technical deep dive, they're like, wow, like this is really awesome. So I'm really excited about the project. Again, it's still very early days. We have only a few customers, but every day I'm just like really, really happy that I did this move. I joined the company, and I really hope we can change the industry in around a year's time. It doesn't exist. It actually exists, and it would be a long queue of customers who would like to join us. So it's in a very short manner trying to explain what we do right now.
Excellent. Okay, thank you, Nadia. So you started at Betfair and now you're CCO at Elantil. Can you take us through your journey? Like, were there any key career decisions or opportunities which came up along the way to get to where you are now?
Yeah, I actually can share my journey is like a little bit of like a fairy tale. I was thinking about it now. I never looked for a job. The job always found me, and and in a very strange ways. For example, the way how I ended up, for example, let's put it, the way how I ended up with relax gaming, it was, I still remember it. It was really, really late and around 9 o'clock. And I used to be the last one leaving the office normally. And we had a very specific parking. It was like a little bit hidden. It was in Spinola Park. And it was not where your normal person, like who goes to the supermarket will park. It was a little bit hidden. So I go down and I had a little bit of a bad day. Like, let's say I wasn't super happy about things, but it can happen to everyone. And I bumped to our ex-CPO, Simon. who happened to park somehow next to me. So what are the odds again that it's a very weird parking? It's on minus, I still remember it was -3 levels, so people don't go there. And it's in a very, very, very corner. So there is no elevator next to it, nothing. And we just bumped to each other. He asked me how are things. I'm like, I didn't have a really good day today. And he just tells me, why don't you come and work for us? So I ended up with relax. Before that, also, I had the same story with Net, and it's even more crazy. I used to work for Betfair, and then there were some changes. We knew that a lot of people were making redundant, and I was applying for jobs. And one day somebody calls me. They say, it's Nathan, you have an interview tomorrow. I totally forgot what's the interview about. I don't remember how I applied. And I had actually another job in hand. I was offered the job of a country manager, and I was supposed to go and sign the contract next week.
Oh my goodness.
So I'm like, and I was really, really just shy to say no because I wasn't sure who is calling, what is it all about, and so on. It was many years ago. So I ended up going for the interview. I obviously, like after the call, I forgot about it. I remembered at 11 o'clock in the evening. So I opened the website, I checked who is Nathan and so on. And then when I went in the office, I was blown away. It was, there were still like, I think 30 people in Malta. It was very, very small. It was, in general, the company was very small back then. But I saw those casino sign. It was on the toilets, really cool, like casino sites. And I was like, this is such a cool office. I'd like to be part of it. And so I told them, honestly, I told like, I have another job. I have an offer. I have to sign the contract this week and so on. I gave them ETAs. We did all the 3 interviews, but nobody called me. So I thought, they're not interested. So I go to Bet at Home, sign the contract, and they forgot that I'm coming. So they told me, oh, sorry, we didn't prepare the agreement. Come back on Monday. I'm like, okay. I go out of the office and I see the Swedish number is calling me. And I didn't know anybody from Sweden, just not that. So I called back and she's like, yes, we really like you. We want to hire you. And I obviously liked them a lot as well. When I saw the office, it was just a really good energy. So I ended up with that. And so it's always like the same with Elantil. Just basically somebody I know. You should look. So it's also a story. So I have a really, really good friend and investor in this industry. And one day, I don't know, I just had this very strange idea. He had a lot of different investments, portfolio of companies. So I still remember I just sent him this weird message. I'm like, listen, you should also invest in the company which have platforms. And the reply came 30 seconds later. I just started to build one. Like, okay, so we left this conversation, and then like 8 months later, he came, listen, remember this platform conversation? I couldn't tell you, but I'd like you to come and join it. So it was always very interesting. But again, I believe what's meant to be, it's meant to be. And it goes throughout like how you work with customers, how you work with people, what are your inspirations. But I would say I was very, very lucky. And again, I do work hard. So it's not just luck, but it's also hard work. But I always have an interesting story when it comes to my employment.
Yeah, okay. That's different. It's funny, especially the one in the car park, you know? Oh, we met your CPO. Okay. Nadia, can you tell us, well, you work for a software company right now, but can you tell us what are your 3 top essential tools or software that you cannot live without?
Oh, people will hate me because I'm very special in this way. I do like Microsoft, and I cannot use MacBook. So in this industry, and I notice a lot of people, they love Google and they love Apple products. I do have an iPhone, I love it, but I'm such an old school. I started with normal laptop. I started with Windows. It's important for me to have Outlook and Microsoft Office. And it was a big challenge at Relax. After 3 days of trying to use Google, I was like, guys, either you're installing me Office or I'm leaving. It's actually no, because back then Relax was like also a startup, and they were using the software which was free. CCO back then had to authorize like HR or finance to pay me a license to have a Microsoft Office. And that was one of the conditions here. I'm like, guys, I really need Microsoft Office because it's just my productivity. It's like people's like creatures of habits. And I got used like to specific setup, which allows me to do the work really fast. So for example, I never ever have email unanswered, never in my life. So I can't imagine how people have like 200, 1,000 non-thread emails. They don't exist for me. I have a special setup, and I would never leave the office or finish the day if I would not tackle all my tasks. And I have a lot of tasks to do. But again, that's why for me, the tools and the habits I do them on autopilot, and that's very, very crucial. But I know that Microsoft Office is not the best solution maybe for this.
Yeah. Okay. Do you use something else like besides Microsoft Office?
Kind of usual. I use a lot like nowadays, actually, I noticed maybe in the last 7 months, industry moved a lot towards like instant messaging. Like, so WhatsApp, I would say I live on my phone, so I need to have the biggest iPhone possible because of the screen. So 60% of the work is actually happening through the phone nowadays because you move
Oh,
around, you do the things and so
it's
on.
true.
A lot actually is happening towards WhatsApp, not even Skype. Skype basically non-exist. People are moving to Slack, so I like Slack a lot. But I noticed that basically a lot of communication moved to WhatsApp, which again you have to play with the game. But for me, it's not optimal because if the message is disappearing or you miss it or something, you would not respond. At least on the emails, like you tackle email, it's in your email box, you tackle it, you remove it. But with WhatsApp, I'm just a bit cautious and always like, did I reply to this message? Did it pop up on something? But so it's a lot of messengers, WhatsApp, Telegram, it depends on the market, where you work with and so on. But a lot moved to the phone, I noticed last year.
Yeah. Skype is closing anyway, so
As well. And that's a challenge because the question is like 50%, at least, for example, for account managers, like a lot of things are done through Skype communication with customers. So I'm really keen to see what's going to replace it because some people are using Teams, some people are using Slack, and it's too many options to have. Like
yeah,
if your company doesn't have Slack, what are you going to do? If your company doesn't have Office, what are you going to do? And then when you're on the B2B side, how many devices you need to help tackle all your customers? Let's
that's
see, it's an
right.
interesting one.
Okay, let's move on to your teams, right? So when you're structuring a successful sales or business development team, what key factors do you focus on?
Focus on people's strengths. So I'm like, I always say, my guys, I'm not your typical manager. So the way how I look at the teams, it's how people can complement each other. So I have this natural skill of finding what's the best in people and under what conditions they function the best. And then I can see how they can complement each other. So what I do, for example, if I have somebody strong in the team, let's say, like if I take relaxed gaming, who is having a good skill in playing slots. And then, for example, okay, I need somebody maybe to bring in the team with analytical mindset. So they can teach from each other. So one can analyze the KPIs, the other one can basically learn more about slots and everything. And I continue building teams based on those skills. So I always would like to bring a different skill sets and how people can complement each other. And the most important, I would say, successful factor as well, that it's a team. It's basically the team is like has to be like fun, and I always invite people. So again, I teach people how to interview. I like to delegate a lot because without delegation, it's impossible to cope with this high pace of how industry is moving. People like to grow, so I like to invest my time in people, especially at the beginning, so they can be like myself. I'm not scared to share my knowledge. I'm not scared to that somebody can take my place because if you're scared, it's already like you lost the battle straight away. So people to be as good or better than you in order for the company to prosper. And I always want to build team which respect each other and like each other. So I make sure that any new person who is joined is being interviewed by the team. So then there would be a personal click, a personal match. And sometimes I had to say no because I can see that it's not a team fit, basically. So it's another important. The team dynamics is crucial. It becomes a bit more challenging when you have when you have 5 people in the team is one thing. When you have 20 people in the team, it becomes a bit more challenging. But if you're doing the things right, basically the same people will bring you their friends and so on. So it will basically be in a way organic growth. But it's very important to remember that one rotten apple can spoil the batch. Despite how desperate you are, I'd rather not hire the wrong person, or not 100% the right person, just for the sake of hiring to close the gap. Because I unfortunately learned my lesson a few times hard way, and for me, it's important to have the team happy, growing, and if they're happy, if they're growing, then they will deliver and over deliver like much more. So it's from my experience, it's proven.
It's amazing. You've had situations where you had, for example, like 20, I don't know, 15 people and they all had to agree on someone.
Sometimes I let them fail. So, for example, it depends again. So I know that the person is not a good fit, but it kind of can work. But it's not my decision because obviously the team, after you have more than I would say 8 people, you need to have some kind of middle management as well. So they also
Yeah.
need to have, they also need to become a manager. And I also let them take their decisions and fail. At the end of the day, they have probation. So if they really, I will explain my reasons, I will show them the picture, but ultimately it's their decision. So I let people to take their decisions, and obviously they have to be accountable for their decisions. So,
Yeah.
and they need to learn, they need
Mm.
experience. So sometimes I would allow it, and sometimes it can work. Sometimes it doesn't work, for example. But
Yeah.
it's also important not, because if I would say no to the management, it's like they wouldn't be able to say this to take decisions moving forward. So I tell
Yeah.
them, listen, guys, this is my view. If you think it's right for you, try it, and then
Yeah.
we'll like monitor, we work closely. And to be honest, if I see some, again, I have experience to see things. And so far, whatever I saw, it always happens. But people also get experience, and experience is priceless. So it's fine.
Some great words of advice. Since you've been recruiting people, do you have any insights into maybe new upcoming recruitment trends?
Again, maybe I'm a little bit old school on those things, but I can see a massive difference when it comes to different ages and generations. And it basically related to motivation. So different people have different motivation level. Initially, when I became CCO, I was looking at things like from my personal perspective, and I wasn't counting that there is a difference in motivation. And it was a new discovery for me in the sense of that I thought that bonuses, money, nice titles can motivate people. But it's not just about that. When I see that something is not working out, I always try to educate myself. So what's happening? I start reading, I start like talking to experienced people, like coaching, looking more information about it, like basically trying to speaking to people as well. And I realized that, for example, especially specifically within my team, I realized that certain people, they basically to perform the best, they're not after money, they're after comfortable environment. And then I start speaking to my peers, and we start figuring those things like together, which was mind opening. Like certain things, for example, my friend has a daughter. She's 18, and she graduated, like she went to university, like was 21, then graduated as a lawyer, whatever. And then she went to work in the office, some big like office in Canada. And the first day of her employment, her biggest thing was like, how cool is the coffee machines in the office? So people actually not motivated by salary, by things, but environment, how the employees treating them. So some things which are super important, and that would be my advice. Look at what devices. If, for example, if it's a commercial team and they want specific like model of the phone, give them this phone. It's not really that expensive, like loyalty and retention. If they're traveling and so on, don't give them the laptop which they cannot carry around, which like weighs, I don't know, 5 kilos, and that's very difficult
Yeah.
to put in the handbag or somewhere because it upsets people, like literally. So give them the tools to perform, give them the comfortable environment to perform. It doesn't mean that everybody is like that, but for example, the younger generations, they're very, very um, picky when it comes to comfort level, when it comes to certain things, and it doesn't mean it's bad or good. It's just different. So you need to
Yeah.
acknowledge and accept that different generations have different priorities, different motivations, and different things which stimulate them to perform. Once you know it and you understand it, you will have the best team, the best, the strongest team, which will admire you as a manager and will love you as a manager. But unfortunately, people don't see, and those things are very simple, at least for me nowadays. And people don't think about it, people don't mention it. And then they have changes where people, like for me, retention is super important because whatever people say, it takes so much time to bring somebody in, your time to invest. 6 months before the person will start delivering and performing. And then like 2 months down the line, 2 years down the line, they leave. For me, it's a really bad retention rate. But unfortunately, people don't want to recognize it, especially as the managers. They don't want to agree with it. One of the biggest mistakes which I noticed, people don't want to do, like managers don't like doing one-to-ones. They do it because they're forced to do sometimes by HR and so on. And I know, I would say in my team, like 95% of people, they needed one-to-ones. It was so important to them. And sometimes I don't understand why myself, because they're strong performers, they're leaders, they can do things, but it's important. And for some people, it's even much more important. And I mean, it doesn't have to be daily, weekly, it can be bi-weekly, or it can be monthly. But people need time with their manager. And I'm unfortunately, sadly, seeing a lot of people. It's like, it's none of my business. I don't want to, like, you have a team, you have your manager, go to your line manager. Unfortunately, even the CCO, the C level has to be close to their team. They need to understand what's happening and they need to correct sometimes managers and so on. And once it's done, like, your team would be flying. So my advice, spend more time with the team. It's important, even if you don't want to do it, but you need to do it if you want to have successful team, and see what motivates different people, because it's very, very different. It's not always money, but it's crucial if you want to have successful team. That's
Okay.
it.
So the next topic is remote work. What are your thoughts on remote work?
Honest opinion, we used to have a big struggle with my previous team about this. Again, I like to be around people, and again, it depends on the obviously of the type of work which you need to do. So, for example, if you're a developer, obviously you need peace and quiet. But if you're working in commercial and business development, for me, it's crucial that people are together. Why? First of all, it's communication. So commercial people are doing communication with customer. Commercial people are communicating between themselves. So how are you going to communicate when you're sitting at home in four walls? And I know that it's not going to give me scores with many people, but again, I have stats, data, and reality things which proven from the industry. So I know from, again, my team was saying me like about people who work like literally 3 hours at home and then they do nothing because they're working remotely. And who is losing out? The company is losing out. Who else is losing out? It's not just the company. The person is losing out. Why? Because it's, of course, it's cool to have at home, like to sit at home. You don't have to find time, like to drive and so on. Also, like you're in Malta, it's not as far. And I live really, really far from all my offices. So I always drove and so on. But no, how you going to learn nowadays that those before, like you had seminars and everything where you can go. Nowadays, everything is online. How many of us, like honestly, will do a webinar, will watch a webinar, will open a book, will read something which educates you? It's a very low percentage because the lives are so busy. We want to do things. We're always in a rush. So that's one factor. You don't go in the office. How are you going to learn new skills? Again, for your personal career, how do you going to share ideas? It's all the basic things. Everybody knows about it, but nobody's doing it. But yes, it's cool to work from home. So for me, it has to be a balance. Now, for example, and again, before we used to, for me, it was very simple rule. Guys, at the moment we're building the company, let's achieve certain results. No, Friday you work from home, 4 days in the office. Obviously, if you want to work from home today, it's not like no set in stone. Like we're all humans, we're flexible. It can be, but don't abuse the system. If something is happening, results are not growing, we are in problem, everybody has to be in the office. It's very simple. So I trust you, but it has to be a balance. If the trust is broken, sorry guys, we have to go back basically to reality. But for me, I do believe we need to work from the office minimum 2-3 days a week, because otherwise people will not progress in their career. It's counterproductive in the terms of even like you want to ask a question. So you can ask a question from someone in 5 seconds. But if you're in the like in the office, but if you are in front of your computer, you have to type the question. It takes much longer. Somebody has to reply. So the person is not working on what have to do, like replying to your questions. And it's about tendency. Obviously, it's much more comfortable. You can work in your pajama and so on. But I think, again, personal advice for career, guys, if you want to progress, if you're ambitious, if you want to grow, the only place where you learn how to do things, it's in the office. Plus, it gets you in a bit of different state of mood. Just think about it. Like, to go to the office, you need to dress up a little bit. You need to think. And also, you have to extrovert, because if you're at home, you're introverted. You're staying in front of your computer. You're all the time on your own. Okay, if you have like a partner or a spouse, like kids and so on, you do. But you're constantly introverting. When you're introverting, you're unhappy. It will come with time, and then you'll have burnout and so on. When you're extroverting, like even if you drive to the office, you look at the road, you look around, you look at people, you see the sunshine, you see different things. So don't look at it again as a waste of time. See, it's like you need to get out of your shell in a way, because then you would be much more happier, much more motivated, much more cheerful. You meet people. We are humans. We're not created to be alone, basically. So it's important to have communication, A, for your career, and B, it's for your well-being. But again, it should be balanced. If it takes you, like if you live in Gozo, it doesn't make sense to come to Malta every day, like just to be in the office. So that's my view on the remote work.
Okay, thank you. Do you have any tips for people who don't have any iGaming experience? Any tips for them to enter the industry?
Yeah, I actually had a good example because somebody complained me 2 days ago that they started to work in the company and they were complaining. It's like, oh, it's so hard, blah, blah, blah. Again, to work in the gaming industry, you need to start somewhere. So it's important, A, to educate yourself. So what I would personally do, like I will open a couple of accounts, on some gaming casinos or sports book just to understand the difference, what it means, what gaming means. So you can educate. It's not a rocket science. Like deposit some money, like 10, 20 euro, try what's play journey, like try to gamble a little bit just to get this idea. Now, there are a lot of courses as well, which can teach you, but again, it's not a rocket science. The entry level, as such as customer support or live casino dealer, they don't require much skills. Basically, the companies who are looking for those jobs, like they will give you a proper training as well. So it's actually really easy to find. And there are a lot of big companies on the island where you can start joining somewhere. Once you start, like just basically your career, if you educate yourself, if you try to learn more skills, if you take extra responsibilities, like you will be curious, you will ask questions from your colleagues, you will progress. But it depends on yourself and the motivation. And also sometimes you don't have to be as low because if, for example, let's say good example, you work in recruitment for iGaming and suddenly you decide to be employee of the company, you don't have to go from customer support because you already have a lot of data knowledge reality about what is gaming about. So you can be an account manager, you can be a marketing manager, you can find different sets of skills. Obviously your salary might not be good as your current one, but again, it's a matter of time and motivation. So, for example, if you're a surgeon, for example, and tomorrow you're going to be electrician, it's like if to compare, you can't expect the same salary. But if you will be good in your job and what are you doing, you will obviously like get to that level and even high. It's more like, you have to, my advice here is you need to work hard and you have to be patient and you need to be obviously positive. If you don't like it, you can't survive. It's not, especially like, customer support, it's a tough job because you might work nights, you might work shift. But if you have a goal, if you have a clear goal, if you're an ambitious person, you'll be there faster than sometimes you think. So that's basically my advice here.
Yep. Okay, so the next topic is CV optimization. I am sure that you have seen so many CVs in your life, at
Yeah.
least in the past 10 years at least, as a hiring manager yourself. What do you look out for?
First of all, I think it's a good question, actually, you're right. First of all, I don't like cover letters. I think it's a very old school because basically whatever you need to see, you will see on CV already because there is a section for hobbies. So again, I think it's something traditional from the past which should stop because for me it's a waste of time. Honestly, I don't even read them often because or I have a very quick glance because it doesn't give me information, literally. I want to know what is experience of the person, what the person did, and what have you. Now, what's very important is that dynamic of the format of how the CVs are presented have changed. And when I see still the CVs which were done like 4 years ago or templates of 10 years ago, I'm like, okay, guys, you didn't invest much in your CV. Nowadays, there is so many interesting software programs which can basically do you 1-2 pages CVs, like super colorful, super attractive, very informative, like straight to the point. So invest time in creating a good CV. It doesn't have to be paid programs. There are a lot of free programs, but make sure your CV is really credible. Because for me, if you made an effort to do a good CV, it's already the first step that you're going to be responsible as a person whom I'm hiring. Secondly, as well, it's salary expectations, like be realistic because when, for example, I'm hiring, I don't know, for account manager and they see 150,000 euro on CV, it's already a big mismatch. Why to waste your time? Why to waste my time? So just Google, see, speak to your friends, understand a little bit of gaps. And to be honest, I would prefer personally not to put any salaries because, again, this is coming from experience. Like you have a conversation with the manager, with the hiring manager, like HR, and then you see. They would normally will tell you what is the gaps for this role and so on. So you wouldn't look greedy. For me, like when people start like pushing too much from day one about money, it's already like a bad sign. Also, information. When I see that person is changing the job every year, it's not a good sign. Something is wrong unless there were really extraordinary circumstances which happen. As a very important advice, I always get a bit concerned when I see that the person is not working. But there can be genuine scenarios. Why? Like, for example, once I hired the person who was made redundant, and the person is still with the company, and it was an extremely good recruitment. So my advice here, if you're not working, you have to clearly explain why, even in your CV. For example, redundancy, and just put it there so it wouldn't push people back, because people automatically, you will see as a manager, maybe this person was fired, maybe something bad happened. Human nature tend to exaggerate a little bit too much. So like if it's a genuine case, make sure you communicate it very clearly already on the CV. That's enough. And sometimes it actually can play in your favor, because people, when somebody is looking to hire like for yesterday, and you're already available, it can be also a big plus. And don't overdo things. So keep it clear, straight. Don't put too little, don't put too much. And be honest, because this industry is so small, like it's extremely small. Do you think that, we're not checking? It's like one thing HR is doing checks. I always will pick up the phone and then will phone somebody who knows the person, or I will know the person who knows the person. So please don't lie, because it's very, very, very easy to check. And then it's just going to end up like bad, because your CV is going to be declined.
Excellent. Okay, the next topic is no industry experience. If you, right now, for example, if you're recruiting for a position at Elantil or for your department, would you hire someone with no industry experience?
It depends which role. So we need HR/office manager, and I would hire him because it's HR. Obviously, if I need a developer in the gaming, again, we're actually hiring one without experience in the gaming industry, but the developer is really good. And if I needed a commercial person, like a head of sales, head of account management, I would not hire without experience, because it means that I will have to educate the person. So it all depends which role you need. If it's a senior role, yes. If it's a junior role, again, like one of my experiences is, so like, for example, at Relax, we needed an office manager at one point. And I saw this girl, I was in Busy Bee Slimmer, and there was this basically restaurant manager. She was amazing. The attention to customers, the attention to details, the hospitality, the chairman was like, listen, just apply. Literally, you have to apply with our company. So I was pushing her to give me her CV, because she would be amazing fit in our company back then. So it all depends which role, and again, where you want to start and so on. If you want to work in the gaming industry and you are young, there are a lot of jobs which will, like, for example, if it's a live dealer, they will take you, Evolution will take you without any experience, because they have a huge operation. Like customer support in certain companies, they will also take you without any experience. If you speak specific languages like German or Dutch, they will fight for you between the companies, even if you don't have experience, because it's or Japanese, for example, it's a very rare language to find locally. So there are a lot of things where you can basically get away without experience very easily.
Excellent. The next topic is job hopping versus staying put. What are your thoughts on how long a person stays at one company?
I would say, I think a good cycle is around 5 years. If you notice, for example, what's happening in those industries, like, so if the manager is leaving, normally the team will follow. And it's like, for example, the good example is Rectiger. Like, so it's time became Octoplay, and everybody is following each other. And it's not just happening there, but it's very common, because people like to work with people or for people, specific people. So this type of hopping, it's normal. What's not normal if the person is spending 7-8 months, or I don't know, 1 year with one company and with the other one, and it's basically never ending cycles. And for me, it's a big red flag. Something is happening there. But on average, I would say 2 years, it's acceptable. Over the 2 years, it's much, much nicer.
Great. So I wanted to ask you, because you've worked in B2C and B2B, if somebody's starting in the gaming industry, do you think it's preferable to work in B2C or B2B?
Say in B2C, it depends again. So I was about to respond that B2C is easy because of customer support, but then Evolution came into my mind at the B2B, and Evolution, you can like basically, again, for live dealer, you can, if you have a good English and everything, you can basically get inside quite fast, and they provide training and everything.
Okay.
I want to add something very interesting on this subject, because the situation came up yesterday. So sometimes, and in my career, it happened quite a few times, you don't have a job opening, but then suddenly you come along a person who is extremely good. And maybe 3 years ago, I just started to hire them. I don't have budget. I don't have role opening. I will still go to the CEO and tell them, listen, I just can't let this person pass by. And every time I did it, I didn't do it a lot, but I had like around 3 or 5 times, which it happened. It was a good decision. Why? Because then something was changing. Either we were suddenly rapidly growing, we were finding more customers, or somebody was getting a promotion, moving around, or somebody was going to leave. So this person was always handy. And why? Because yesterday I had this situation where somebody reached me out, really, really good, and asked if we have a job opening. And I'm like, was thinking at the beginning, no, we don't have, and it's not kind of commercial, it's more on development technical side. And then I was thinking, I worked with this person. The person is amazing, amazing working culture, amazing attitudes, super knowledge of gaming. We just can't let him go. But we don't have a budget, we don't have an opening. And yet, like, we're meeting him tomorrow for a job interview because I think
Amazing.
we should find the space and find this, like, what this person can do. And sometimes also, kind of in your current structure, because we don't know people before we kind of start working with them. We know them, but when we start working together, suddenly, at least in my head, it clicks. Oh, I have so many pending tasks which I was hoping to delegate to someone, and this person would be the right fit. So then I obviously have a conversation. Would you be interested to take this one? So suddenly, sometimes I'm a hiring person, and then I'm creating a position after based on those skills and needs because I needed to shift certain tasks somewhere. So if you see somebody really good, don't let them walk away. That's another piece of advice here. In my career, people are reaching out to me and it's like, what shall I do better? Where I can basically, what are my weaknesses? How can I
Yeah,
kind of cut my weaknesses and so on? And my advice is, again, from the experience, guys, don't look at your weaknesses because what makes you different, what makes you strong, it's your strengths. So you have to develop your strengths and not like change your weaknesses. In fact, I hate this question during the interview. It's like, give me your 3 strengths and give me your 3 weaknesses. I told them I don't remember, you know, about my weaknesses because what's the difference it makes? It makes you look bad as a candidate, and you automatically go introverted straight away. So if somebody is asking, what are your weaknesses? Just don't give them away. And secondly, don't ask your manager to tell what are your weaknesses. Because if you have a really good manager, the manager will notice those things and will correct them completely. But ask your manager, what can I do better? And I always see what are the strengths of people. And I always like, listen, your strengths, for example, social skills. Your strengths is like, customer relations. Your strengths is like this analytical mindset and, hard work. You have to develop those things to even better because it's your strengths. You like doing it. So you can easily make them much, much better. And it will give 20% extra to your company in terms of revenues. But weaknesses, if it's really bad, you shouldn't be at this job to start with. But if it's something like, you're coming late to office or whatever, it can be corrected and it should maintain on specific levels that it doesn't go down. But you shouldn't be obsessed on working on your weaknesses. You should be obsessed on working on your strengths. So it's a very, very important piece of advice for me, guys. You need to look what you're doing good and you need to do it even better. And make sure that some small things like don't fall below kind of the specific threshold, but focus on your strengths. So that's the last thing I wanted to add.
that really makes sense what you're saying. But, I have been asked that question at interviews, like, what are your strengths and then what are your weaknesses? And it's true, automatically go blank. You have to think of something,
Too much, so it's my weakness.
Good one. Okay.
But
So,
it's not a nice question. I wouldn't ask it. It's like there are other ways how to figure out information if you need it. It's like, I think it's demotivating automatically.
yeah. Okay. Thank you. So thank you very much for your time, Nadia.
It's been a real pleasure as well.